Welcome, everyone. We're diving into some really cool excerpts today from Smarter, Faster, Better by Charles Duhigg.
Some fascinating stuff in here.
You bet. We'll be looking at motivation, high-performing teams, even how to make tough decisions. Ready to get smarter, faster, and better.
It's all connected. Duhigg shows these links between like Marine Corps boot camp and high stakes poker. Who knew?
Let's start with this guy, Robert Philippe, a Louisiana businessman who
Yeah.
built this whole empire, but then a trip to South America just like zaps his energy, his motivation just gone.
It makes you wonder what happens in our brains when motivation vanishes, right? Duhigg talks about this area called the striatum. It kind of translates decisions into actions and affects our mood, and even damage, like from tiny burst blood vessels, can cause serious apathy.
Wow, so small physical changes can have a huge impact on how we act. But it's not just lack of motivation, is it? These patients Duhigg talks about, they seem emotionally detached too, like they can't even feel any reward from doing things.
Hmm. Exactly. It shows how important emotions are for self-motivation. Duhigg brings up this idea of internal locus of control, like believing you have power over your life and get this emotional rewards actually make this belief stronger.
So it's not just external rewards like money or recognition, it's that internal satisfaction from making choices and feeling in control.
Totally. And it's not just about enjoying what we like. Think about Marine Corps boot camp, not exactly a comfy feel-good place, but they push recruits so hard, make them decide things under stress. It rewires their brains to embrace control.
So even resisting something we hate can make us feel more in control. That's kind of weird.
It is. Think of it like this. When we face a challenge and we choose to keep going, even when it's tough, we're telling our brains, hey, I'm in charge here. And that feeling can become a habit.
Ah, like we're training our minds to connect effort and difficulty with a sense of achievement and control, making us more likely to tackle tough things in the future.
You got it. And remember, Robert Philippe, the businessman, his story shows this perfectly. He struggles with apathy for years, then his wife gets sick, and bam, his sense of control comes roaring back. He throws himself into caring for her, showing how love and purpose can reignite motivation even when it seems lost.
That's really inspiring. It's like sometimes finding motivation isn't about finding the right trick, but connecting with what truly matters to us, the things that give our actions real emotional weight.
Couldn't say it better myself. Ready to move from individual motivation to the world of high-performing teams.
Absolutely. Let's see what Duhigg has to say about why some teams rock and others, well, don't.
Okay, so picture this. Julia's in business school, right? She's in this crazy, stressful study group. Everyone's fighting for control, just a tense vibe.
I can relate. Been there, done. That got the stress headache to prove it.
Huh?
But wait, wasn't Julia also on a super successful case competition team?
She was. And this is where it gets interesting. Her case team was full of people from different backgrounds, but they just clicked. This got Google's attention. They were already doing Project Oxygen, trying to figure out what makes a great manager.
So Google trying to crack the code of leadership? I bet their data scientists were loving that project.
Oh, for sure. But when they looked at teams expecting to find the perfect mix of people, they found something unexpected.
Wait, are you saying the who didn't matter as much as they thought? That's a plot twist.
It is. They studied 180 teams and personality types, skills, backgrounds. They didn't predict success. So what did? Enter Amy Edmondson and her research on psychological safety.
Psychological safety rings a bell. Isn't that feeling like you can speak your mind without being judged or punished?
Bingo! Edmondson found that teams where people felt safe to share ideas, admit mistakes, take risks. They did way better than teams with low psychological safety, no matter who was on them.
So you could have a team of superstars, but if they don't feel safe to be themselves and speak openly, they won't perform as well.
You nailed it. Now get this. Duhigg tells us about the original Saturday Night Live team, a bunch of super talented but brutally honest comedians, constantly ripping each other's work apart, and somehow they created comedy gold.
Wow, that's not what I expected. I would have thought that kind of environment would kill creativity, not make it flourish. What was their secret?
It might sound crazy, but their secret was psychological safety, even in that crazy environment. They believed in each other's talent, even when they were being tough on each other. They could be totally honest, take risks, push each other, knowing it was okay to experiment and make mistakes.
So psychological safety isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about making people feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to share their ideas and learn from their screw-ups. That's a big difference.
Huge difference. And Google, after their research, embraced this idea. They started doing things to promote psychological safety, like really listening, encouraging different viewpoints, and making sure everyone had a chance to contribute.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great to see a data-driven company like Google understanding the importance of these soft skills and actually trying to create a psychologically safe workplace.
Totally agree. It all boils down to trust and shared control. When people feel truly supported and empowered, they're more likely to share their knowledge, take initiative, and help the team succeed.
So it's about giving control, but also creating an atmosphere where people feel comfortable letting go of control. That's really interesting.
It is. So, ready to move on to the next part of our deep dive. We'll be tackling how to make those tough decisions buckle up.
Let's do it. I'm ready for more smarter, faster, better wisdom, decision-making time. All right, let's get into it. Duhigg starts with this poker player, Annie Duke, facing a huge choice, and it reminded me of that Air France Flight 447 disaster, remember?
Oh, yeah. Cognitive tunneling at its worst. Those pilots so overwhelmed they focused on the wrong stuff. Fatal mistakes, you know?
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid those mental traps? Duhigg talks about this NICU nurse, Darlene. She spots a life-threatening thing in a baby that other nurses missed.
Darlene had this crystal clear image in her head of what a healthy baby should look like, so she saw the tiny differences right away. It guided her focus. It's like having a mental checklist.
So helpful. Mental models, they're like roadmaps for life's crazy situations. They help us predict what's coming, see patterns, make better decisions faster. How do we build those mental models?
Duhigg suggests storytelling. Pretty simple but powerful, right? When we tell stories about our experiences, we create mental frameworks that shape how we see things. Like, imagine you're prepping for a meeting. Run through it in your head who'll be there, what you'll talk about. Tough questions that might come up. It strengthens your mental model for that situation, makes you more prepared.
Like practicing for a play, but the play is our own life.
Mhm.
By mentally rehearsing different scenarios and outcomes, we're like pre-programming our brains to be sharper and more responsive.
That's awesome. It is. But making smart choices isn't just about focusing on the right information, it's also about handling uncertainty. This is where Duhigg's poker stuff gets really interesting. He talks about probabilistic thinking, making choices based on likelihoods, not guarantees.
Poker as a decision-making metaphor. I like it. So instead of trying to predict the future perfectly, which is impossible, we should figure out the odds and choose the path with the best chance of winning.
You got it. It's a whole different way of thinking, from chasing certainty to embracing the fact that life's unpredictable and learning to navigate that strategically. Duhigg highlights this guy, Joshua Tenenbaum, who studied how people naturally understand probabilities, even with limited data. It's like our brains are built to spot patterns and likelihoods without doing math.
Wait, you say we're all like secret statisticians constantly updating our beliefs based on new information? That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. This ability to sense probabilities is a superpower for making decisions. But here's the catch. Our internal models can be biased. We tend to favor information that supports what we already believe and ignore stuff that doesn't. That's why getting different perspectives, especially ones that challenge our assumptions, is so important.
Like having a little devil's advocate on your shoulder, always pushing you to see things from different angles and question what you think might not be fun all the time. But it's key to avoiding blind spots and making better choices.
So true. Remember, these aren't just theories. Duhigg goes back to Annie Duke's poker game leaves us hanging as she makes her decision. The point is, even with great mental models and understanding probabilities, risk and uncertainty are always there. The key is to use these tools to make the best choice you can, even when you don't know the outcome, for sure.
A good reminder that even the best decision-making systems can't eliminate risk completely. It's about accepting that uncertainty, embracing the possibility of setbacks, and using what we know to make the most strategic moves possible. So what's next on this smarter, faster, better journey?
Let's dive into the world of innovation. Duhigg explores how sometimes messy processes can actually spark groundbreaking ideas.
Innovation, that's right up my alley. I'm fascinated by how brilliant ideas can come from the most unexpected places. Take it away.
All right, innovation, let's get creative. Where do we start?
How about Disney's Frozen? Making a hit animated film is a huge undertaking, and the team, they hit a wall that anyone who's ever faced a blank page knows, turning a jumble of ideas into a story that works.
I can only imagine the pressure they were under, deadlines, looming tons of potential storylines. The expectation to make movie magic, it sounds intense.
Exactly, and it shows how limitations can actually boost creativity. Duhigg takes us back to the making of West Side Story. Total chaos, but also brilliance. And he emphasizes the role of creative tension in making a masterpiece. The creators, led by this super demanding guy, Jerome Robbins, they fought, constantly push each other out of their comfort zones, broke free from the usual stuff.
So you're saying a bit of creative friction instead of hurting innovation can actually spark those breakthroughs, kind of like iron sharpens iron. You got it. And this ties into a cool concept. Duhigg talks about idea brokers. These people are great at connecting seemingly unrelated ideas from different areas, creating new combinations that lead to big advancements. They're like intellectual matchmakers, spotting patterns and possibilities that others miss.
Now that's a skill I'd love to master. It reminds me of those Renaissance geniuses who dabbled in everything from art to science, making unexpected connections that pushed the boundaries of what we knew.
You're getting it. Duhigg talks about research by Uzi and Jones. They looked at scientific papers trying to understand how those big breakthroughs happen. And guess what? The most influential papers weren't necessarily filled with completely new ideas. Instead, they took existing concepts and combined them in fresh ways, drawing from different fields and challenging the status quo.
So it's not always about inventing something totally new. It's about seeing the familiar with new eyes, making those unexpected connections, and being bold enough to experiment with them.
Precisely. And this creative mixing thrives in environments that embrace a little bit of disruption. Duhigg makes a fascinating comparison to the intermediate disturbance hypothesis from ecology. It suggests that ecosystems that experience moderate levels of disturbance, like forest fires or storms, actually have more diversity than those that are super stable or totally chaotic.
Powerful analogy. It's like a little shakeup can disrupt our routines, force us to adapt, and open up new paths for growth and creativity.
Right on. Remember the Frozen team. They embraced uncertainty. They were willing to completely change the story even late in the game. And that willingness to challenge their own assumptions and explore new creative territory ultimately led to a film that people loved worldwide.
It shows that sometimes the best way to unlock our creative potential is to embrace a bit of chaos step outside our comfort zones and trust that even disruptive events can lead to amazing breakthroughs. Time for another shift.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a challenge we all face in today's world: information overload. How do we actually absorb and learn from the constant flood of data? Duhigg takes us to this struggling inner-city school, South Avondale Elementary in Cincinnati, that experienced a remarkable transformation.
From struggling to thriving must be a good story there. What changed everything?
It wasn't about more money or fancy tech. The key was a fundamental shift in how teachers use data. Instead of passively receiving reports and stats, they had to actively engage with the data, turning it into useful insights that directly impacted their teaching.
So data itself isn't enough. It's about how we use it, extract meaning from it, and use it to guide our actions.
Exactly. Duhigg mentions information blindness. Our brains can only handle so much, and when we're bombarded with information, we start processing it effectively. The solution: winnowing or scaffolding, basically breaking down complex info into smaller bite-sized pieces that our brains can digest.
Like building a mental framework, a structure that helps us understand and organize information in a way that makes sense.
You got it. Duhigg gives this surprising example from Chase Bank's debt collection department. They trained collectors to pick up on subtle cues during calls, like background noises or the way the debtor was talking, and their success rates skyrocketed. The key was making the data personally relevant and engaging, turning it into a puzzle to solve.
It's amazing how disfluency, making information a little harder to process, can actually help us learn better. By actively engaging with data instead of just passively consuming it, we force our brains to work harder, which strengthens our understanding and helps us remember it.
Totally. Think about it. Reading a textbook can be passive, but teaching someone the same material forces you to actively organize and retrieve information, which leads to deeper learning. Same with data. The more we actively engage with it, the better we absorb it.
Wow, what a journey. So many insights swirling around in my head, from the neuroscience of motivation to the power of psychological safety, the art of probabilistic thinking, the magic of creative recombination, and the importance of data fluency. It's amazing how these seemingly different topics are all connected, revealing a roadmap for becoming smarter, faster, and better in every aspect of our lives.
And to wrap things up, let's distill our deep dive into 10 key takeaways, little nuggets of wisdom you can take with you on your own path to personal and professional growth.
Great idea. A mental checklist for putting these concepts into action.
Number 1, motivation thrives on control. Give yourself and others choices to awaken that internal locus of control. Number 2, emotional rewards matter. Celebrate initiative and self-determination to strengthen drive. Number 3, Psychological safety unlocks team potential, foster trust, and open communication for better collaboration. Number 4, embrace constructive conflict. Don't shy away from critiques as long as everyone feels safe to take risks. Number 5, mental models guide focus. Tell yourself stories to anticipate what's coming and avoid cognitive tunneling. Number 6, probabilistic thinking is key. Learn to make choices based on likelihoods, not certainty. Number 7, seek out diverse perspectives. Expose yourself to successes and failures to improve forecasting and decision making. Number 8, become an idea broker. Draw on your own experiences and emotions to spark creative insights. Number 9, embrace creative disturbances. Don't be afraid of moderate disruptions, they can fuel innovation. And finally, number 10, combat information overload with fluency, make data personally relevant, and engage actively with information for deeper learning.
So much wisdom packed into those 10 points. It reminds us that personal growth isn't about mastering one skill or technique. It's about understanding how our minds, our actions, and the systems we're part of all interact. It's about embracing the messiness of the process, experimenting with new approaches, and always seeking those aha moments that push us forward.
Couldn't agree more. As a final thought, I encourage you to think about how these ideas connect. How can understanding the science of motivation help us build stronger teams? How can probabilistic thinking shape our creative process? How can we use data fluency to boost our personal and professional growth? These are questions worth exploring as you continue your own deep dives into the world of knowledge and self-improvement.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep searching for those moments of insight that make life truly extraordinary.